Tonight, 3 teenagers are convicted of murdering 16-year-old Caden Moy on an Ayrshire beach. This is the moment Cole Turley, Jay Stewart and a 15-year-old are seen congratulating each other after leaving Caden for dead.
Caden was robbed of his future on the 17th of May last year, and his family and friends were robbed of a future with him.
Also on tonight's programme.
About 6 months of taking it on a daily, I was noticing issues with my bladder, inflammation, constant needing a pee.
A former ketamine addict warns about the lasting health impacts as doctors in Aberdeen report a sharp rise in young users. Residents of Coalsnaughton call for more support as the First Minister visits parts of the former mining village which have been evacuated following ground movement.
And coming up in tonight's sport, Martin O'Neill is set to become the permanent Celtic manager, signing a 1-year deal.
I'm Laura Goodwin, this is Reporting Scotland. Caden Moy was just 16 years old when he died after being stabbed on Irvine Beach in Ayrshire last year. Today, 18-year-old Jay Stewart and a 15-year-old who can't be named for legal reasons were found guilty of murdering him. A third teenager, 18-year-old Cole Turley, had pleaded guilty to the murder before the trial started. All 3 were members of a gang in East Kilbride, while Caden was a member of a rival group. The court heard Caden was unarmed and had tried to run away when he saw the others had weapons. Selina Jackson has this report.
Just minutes after stabbing Caden Moy, hugs and high fives between his murderers. The 3 were captured on CCTV celebrating while the 16-year-old was fighting for his life on Irvine Beach. Caden had been enjoying a sunny day at the coast with his friends. But unknown to them, Cole Turley, Jay Stewart and a 15-year-old who can't be identified were also on their way to Irvine, armed with a lockback knife and a baton more than half a metre long. They were members of the Murray Boys gang in East Kilbride. The court was told they were seeking retribution or retaliation for an earlier fight between an acquaintance of theirs and some of Caden's friends, known as the Himshie. Caden, who wasn't armed, tried to run when he saw the weapons, but tripped. One witness described watching Cole Turley pounce on Caden before stabbing him. Caden died in hospital later that night. Stewart and the 15-year-old were accused of having acted in concert with Turley. Another witness told the court the 3 turned up at his flat later that night. He described them as ecstatic as they recounted the stabbing and made up a rap song about it. Police say it was a tricky investigation, but information from members of the public played a crucial role.
Cases of this magnitude are very challenging. In this particular occasion, there was a huge number of children witnesses, and that made it even more difficult. Thankfully, the public responded really well to some of the tools that we used to gather evidence, and in this occasion, the Major Incident Public Portal.
The jury returned a unanimous verdict of murder against Jay Stewart. The 15-year-old was convicted by a majority decision. In a statement, Caden's parents said he was an amazing, caring boy who lit up every room he walked into. They said they have an emptiness in their hearts that can never be filled, and they miss him every minute of every day. Caden's mum burst into tears as the verdicts were read out, while other members of his family cried yes. As the jury left the courtroom, some shouted thank you after them. It was revealed that Jay Stewart has 2 prior convictions for possession of a knife and a machete. He smirked at Caden's parents as he was led out of the court. Caden's loved ones later told me that summed up the type of character he is. Judge Lord Scott has ordered background reports to be carried out. Turley, Stewart and the 15-year-old will return to court to be sentenced on the 21st of July. Selina Jackson reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
It's the Class B drug taken for a short high that can cause bladder incontinence and kidney failure for the rest of your life. A former ketamine addict is warning about the dangers of the drug as doctors in Aberdeen report a sharp rise in people using it, some as young as 14. Such is the scale of the problem that a specialist clinic has been opened. A warning: Rebecca Curran's report contains footage from the start showing the effects of ketamine misuse, which some viewers may find distressing.
Ellie White wants people to know what ketamine addiction looks like behind closed doors, in bed and barely conscious as her daily habit spiralled out of control. Ellie started using ketamine at 18, spending around £40 a day on the powder. Now 23 and in recovery, she's been left with permanent damage to her bladder.
So I think within about 6 months of taking it on a daily, I was noticing issues with my bladder, inflammation, constant need to pee. I started off getting UTIs quite a lot. You know, I was 18 years old and I'm sitting in traffic in Aberdeen and, you know, I'm bursting for the toilet and you just physically can't hold it. You know, and it's a lot mentally, like going through that. It's not something I expected. I didn't know this was going to happen. I was scared.
A 19-year-old young lady.
There's evidence to suggest ketamine users are getting much younger. At Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, they're seeing patients as young as 14. Cases have risen so sharply that a dedicated clinic is being opened to treat what's become known as ketamine bladder.
They're going to end up with major health problems for the rest of their life. We're really just scratching the surface at the moment, and these are young, smart kids who've got their whole lives in front of them and could do quite a lot, and they think they are taking something relatively safe. But in reality, they are damaging themselves beyond redemption, and that's a real shame.
I was like, oh my goodness.
Ellie has been in recovery for 10 months and has set up a support group to help others who want to quit. 23-year-old Claire attends the group. Her name's been changed to protect her identity.
At the height of my addiction, I was doing between 14 and 21 grams a day. Just recently in February, I was in hospital because of my ketamine use. My kidneys have failed. That was one of the most difficult moments for me. Just constantly using and hoping, like almost accepting that it was going to kill me, but I didn't care anymore.
Ellie's now preparing to walk the West Highland Way to raise awareness for young people struggling with addiction and send a message that recovery is possible, one step at a time.
I've never done this well before. I just do feel very grateful to be where I am today. And I think it's important for other people to feel like they're able to get there as well and to not give up on hope. So yeah.
Ellie White talking to our reporter Rebecca Curran. Details of organisations offering support and information with addiction are available at bbc.co.uk/action line, or you can call for free at any time to hear recorded information on the number on the screen. If you had to leave your home quickly, what would you take and where would you go? Well, that's exactly what happened to residents in 100 homes in Coalsnaughton, a former mining village, that had to be evacuated after reports of ground movement over the past 2 weeks. Well, the First Minister visited today to hear concerns of residents, some who say they're having to spend hundreds of pounds on alternative places to stay, and others who say they have been placed in substandard and dirty accommodation. Well, our news correspondent Jamie McIver joins us now from Coalsnaughton. Jamie, this is having a huge impact on residents.
Indeed, 97 homes here have been evacuated. In other words, 97 families don't have any permanent accommodation just now, and all because of signs of ground movement in the area. And the families have no idea when they'll get back into their homes either. The Mining Remediation Authority is going to be on this site behind me for at least another 8 weeks. Now, today the First Minister, John Swinney, paid a visit. He saw the site for himself, the work that's being done, the signs of movement, and he also spoke to some of the residents, and Mr. Swinney expressed great sympathy for them. Later on, I spoke to one of the first to have to leave their home. Emma Little has been out of her house for more than a fortnight now, and her immediate neighbours have asked if she will act as a spokesperson on behalf of all of them. Now, she told me about the huge difficulties they have been facing, from what they see as inadequate temporary accommodation to money worries.
We're getting offered student accommodation at the moment that is filthy, it has stained mattresses, it's got cigarette burns on the carpet, it's not been cleaned, there's mould round the window, and we're basically being told, well, you need to accept that, or go somewhere else for support. That's as far as our support stops. Some of my residents who this evening are still outside the Devonvale Hall asking where will I be put tonight. They don't know where they're sleeping tonight with their families. And I think that's ridiculous. That we're this many weeks in now and we still don't know daily where people are sleeping.
And Jamie, Clackmannanshire Council was a small local authority. Is it getting support?
Well, certainly the council says it's been getting support from neighbouring councils and from housing associations in the region, but it's simply the case that it's very hard to find suitable accommodation for so many families. That's one of the reasons the council has been speaking to Stirling University about using student accommodation over the summer. Now, the council leader has told me she's all too aware of some of the problems which the residents have been facing, the upsetting situations some of them say they've been facing, and the Scottish Government says it's doing all it can to help the council. That was a point John Swinney was keen to make today.
OK, Jamie from Coalsnaughton, thank you very much indeed. The family of a teenager who drowned in a Dumfries river earlier this year say they relive his death every time another young person loses their life in open water. Ben Glenn, who was afraid of water and could not swim, died in the River Nith at the end of April, days after he turned 18. His father Ian has been speaking to our reporter Laurie Carnaghan.
At the beginning of April, Ian Glenn married his fiancée Cheryl, one of the happiest days of his life. By the end of April, that life was shattered. His son Ben, just days after celebrating his 18th birthday, drowned after entering the River Nith in Dumfries.
I saw the fire engine and the bridge cordoned off by police officers, and I just saw a few crowds, and I felt useless as probably a nurse. I knew what they'd be doing and how much they would be trying to help him, but also as the dad, I just felt like, what am I meant to do? I'm meant to protect my son, I can't. Sorry.
Ben's family believe he was trying to retrieve a dog ball, but say they've been left with unanswered questions. Ben couldn't swim and had worn armbands on a family holiday last year. Such was his fear of water. 17 people from across the UK have died from drowning during the recent heat wave. 11 of them were teenagers. Ian is now turning his grief into action by educating people about the dangers of open water.
What we want as a family is that if we just get the message of what's happened to Ben to one child at all and prevent that death, that's a bonus to us, because this is a living hell, what we're going through with Ben.
Emergency services across Dumfries and Galloway are coordinating efforts to raise awareness of water safety, with this advice for anybody who finds themselves in trouble.
Try and remain calm, and it's so easy to say that when we stood here on the beach, but when you're in the water and you're thinking that something bad is happening, you do have to try and remain calm and remember that float to live. Lay back, put your ears in the water to help you float and just calm yourself down.
Ben's family say he was a Spider-Man obsessed boy who was looking forward to becoming a father for the first time later this year.
I want people to remember Ben as like the fun-loving, carefree man that he was. He wanted to please everyone before himself, and he just loved family, loved friends, and that's him.
Laurie Carnaghan with that report. Now, it's a story about one of the darkest periods in Scotland's history, when communities were gripped by fear and mothers warned their children to hurry home. Now, a version of Denise Mina's book, The Long Drop, which documents the crimes of serial killer Peter Manuel in the 1950s, is coming to the stage in the Citizens Theatre in the Gorbals. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean reports.
And I've got the very guy, a right good fit. I just need the gun.
The Long Drop is based on the crimes of the serial killer Peter Manuel. It's told in a strange and unsettling pub crawl he undertook with the husband of one of his victims. It was originally a stage play until writer Denise Mina found there was much more to the story.
A lot of people in the audience were older, and they told me a better story than the story that was in the play, and that became the book The Long Drop. And now Linda McLean has adapted that book into a play. But the great thing about it is it's in the SITS. Now the Sits is basically the place that most of this stuff happened. So the bars that they drank in were all around the Sits. The High Court's just across the water. I mean, it couldn't be a better place.
Manuel didn't just kill his victims, he stayed in their homes for days afterwards. His trial, where he defended himself, dominated the headlines, as did his execution in Barlinnie prison. It's one of the darkest roles actor Brian Vernal has taken on.
I'd heard of Peter Manuel, of course, growing up in Glasgow. I think he's infamous in this city.
My friend's granny, she's like 94 years old, and she was like, she grew up in the Gorbals, and so it was something that, like, instantly, the name of Peter Manuel, oh my word.
It's a full-circle moment for the Citizens Theatre, one of the few landmarks still standing in the Gorbals, and a reminder of a grim chapter in the city's history. Polly McLean, reporting Scotland.
Right, time now for Sport with Lewis.
Thanks very much, Laura. Hello there. Well, we start with some breaking news tonight because BBC Sport understands that Martin O'Neill has agreed a deal to become the permanent manager of Celtic after steering the club to a domestic double as interim boss. Well, let's cross to Sheila McLaren now, who's at Celtic Park for us. Sheila.
Well, Lewis, Martin O'Neill was, of course, a firm fans' favourite after everything he achieved in his first spell at the club, but it was still a bit of a shock when he came back for the first of two interim periods last season. First when Brendan Rodgers departed, and then when Wilfried Nancy was sacked. Now, Celtic were trailing Hearts for the majority of the season, but the 74-year-old got them over the line in that final day decider here at Celtic Park. And the following week he led them to the double, winning the Scottish Cup final against Dunfermline. Now, after that match at Hampden, he was asked about his future and he said there was plenty to consider. But after discussions with the club's largest individual shareholder, Dermot Desmond, he will be staying on at the club. There were other contenders for the job, including former Ireland international Robbie Keane, but there was a bit of a backlash from some of the club's supporters about him because of his previous managerial stint in Israel. O'Neill will have a bit of a rebuilding job to do this summer. There'll be lots of ins and outs, and they'll be preparing for the Champions League qualifiers later.
Yeah, a fascinating summer ahead. Sheila McLaren, thank you. Well, let's turn our attention to the World Cup, shall we? As if we need an excuse. But it is officially less than a week until the tournament begins. For Scotland, it's a little longer to wait. But with a final warm-up match tomorrow against Bolivia, it's now about fine-tuning for Steve Clarke and his players, as Jane Lewis and a special guest can tell us.
Well, Steve Clarke's Scotland squad will arrive here later on to put their final touches on their World Cup preparations with a friendly against Bolivia. The friendly's been played tomorrow afternoon in New Jersey, just across the Hudson River from New York City. The game is live on BBC Two, and part of our commentary team for that one is former Scotland striker James McFadden. James, it's the final World Cup warm-up match before the big one against Haiti. What are you expecting Steve Clarke to want to see from his squad?
More of the same. The good stuff against Curacao. I think more of a focus on attacking and clearly obviously making sure that you're solid defensively, but from a more attacking viewpoint, and hopefully we get to see some of the young players again. Finn McCurtis, I think, come on and done really well. He scored a goal. Lauren Shankland as well, he's got a goal. So I think more of an attack-minded focus on the game, because we have to go and try and attack to get the victory.
Would you expect tomorrow against Bolivia to see a strong starting 11? Maybe the one that starts against Haiti?
Yeah, I think that whether it's the one that starts, but certainly you're looking at McGinn, McTominay, the guys that missed out, Lewis Ferguson, to get some game time. I know it's been a long season for them, but I would expect to see them. So I think it will be a strong team. I think we've got a strong squad anyway. It may well be with a view to who starts against Haiti, whether that's players that come in and maybe don't perform, or players that come in and perform that maybe he's still on the undecided on. So I think no matter the case, whoever plays, you look at Finn McCurtis, you look at Tyler Fletcher, if they're given an opportunity, then it's their chance to impress, which they have done. So I think that he's certainly got a few things to think about, Steve Clarke, in terms of his team selection, but I do think we're in a good place.
Just a final one on news today surrounding Scotland captain Andy Robertson sealing that move to Spurs. It is good that that's now done and dusted and out the way. He can now fully concentrate on the World Cup.
Yeah, I think it is. It allows him to focus, get the move out the way, focus on the World Cup. Not that he would be distracted anyway, he's a professional. So, yeah, it means that he can settle, knowing where he's going to be after the summer, but he's still got a job to do coming up.
He certainly does indeed. It's a pretty big job as well, you could say. Yeah, that World Cup friendly, the last one before the World Cup gets underway against Bolivia tomorrow night. Of course, it's live on BBC Two. Join us then from 8:30.
Okay, Scotland's women are in action now against Israel in Budapest in a World Cup qualifier. Erin Cuthbert opened the scoring with her 25th goal for the national side. Captain Caroline Weir then doubled their lead just 4 minutes later after some neat footwork indeed. Cuthbert set Weir up for her second with a clever through pass after the break. Weir completed her hat-trick from the spot after a handball. Lauren Davidson and Kirsty Hansen scored late on to make it 6, but an injury to Erin Cuthbert at the end of normal time will certainly be a worry for head coach Melissa Andriata. Hopefully nothing too serious there. Well, Craig McLeish believes his background with St Mirren's Academy makes him the best choice as manager after agreeing a 3-year deal with the Paisley side. The 36-year-old stepped in on a temporary basis after League Cup winning boss Stephen Robinson left for Aberdeen. McLeish won 3 of his 9 league matches but was unable to prevent the Buddies finishing in the playoff spot. They retained their top flight status by overcoming Partick Thistle. Glasgow Warriors have another massive match this weekend. They take on the Bulls in the URC semi-final tomorrow at Murrayfield. Their all-time record try scorer, scrum half George Horn, makes the starting 15 after concerns over a knock picked up in last week's win over Connacht. Head coach Franco Smith says it's a dangerous side that stands between them and a place in the final.
You know, we play a very strong opposition. If I can say 2 things about the Bulls, is the fact that they have played in more finals than anybody else. They've got a, you know, I know the squad well. The squad depth is the best in the competition by a long shot. The juniors that they've got there they're fantastic. They are the best in South Africa.
Well, we're all getting in the World Cup mood now. And to whet your appetite a little more, let's relive the night that got Scotland there. A special programme is going out tonight which shows that memorable match against Denmark through the eyes of the fans. I don't think that's ever going to get old watching that night back. And
I wish we'd had a camera on you though that night, Lewis. That would have been great.
Actually, maybe I don't.
Thank you very much indeed. And of course, BBC Scotland will be getting you in the mood for the World Cup this evening, as well as the programme Lewis just mentioned. Comedian Kevin Bridges has been back on his home turf in Clydebank for the documentary Kevin Bridges in Search of the Beautiful Game. He was joined by friend and fellow Bankie, Scotland and Aston Villa star John McGinn, as they took a trip down memory lane for the programme. Here's a short snippet of the programme.
I remember summer holidays, you just leave the house in the morning, somebody would bring a ball and you would just go and sit in a park.
We'd play all day, cuppy.
So explain cuppy, because it gets quite contentious, that, you know? Everybody's got different names for these games.
Some people, my mates, when I played at St Mirren, would call it World Cuppy. So you've got the keeper in goal. It could be 3 people playing, 13 people playing, and if you score, stand behind the goal, actually through it the next room. So then people get left out, so if you get put out you'd be at the side, but the keeper would be the ref.
I was the fat guy with an ice pole at the side. So any bits of your game now as a pro, you credit to playing cuppy in games like that?
I think when I learned how to compete against older players and stronger players, that was on these pitches, and I think it's so valuable to places like this. You learn the basics of the game here, but also wee tricks that you can evade the older, stronger guys.
So this is where you served your apprenticeship, basically?
Aye. And the older they got, the more physical they got. So I think it did help me be rough and ready.
And you can see a whole evening of programmes about Scotland and the World Cup starting from 8 on BBC Scotland. That Kevin Bridges documentary is at 9, and Through the Eyes of the Fans is at 10:15. But right now, though, it's time for the weather with Kirsty. How is the weekend shaping up?
Well, the weekend is shaping up to be fairly changeable, Laura.
That's your code for not very good, right?
Yes,
Off you go.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Yes, we've certainly had changeable conditions across the country today, with showers and also some spells of brightness and sunshine around at times too. And as we head into this evening, we'll continue to see a few showers, especially across the north and northeast, but those will then fade. It turns largely dry for a time. Some clear spells, but more cloud moving in during the early hours and some patchy outbreaks of rain. The clearest skies continuing across Shetland, 7 to 9 Celsius for most, a little higher around the coasts. And to tomorrow, well, it'll bring us a good deal of cloud and there will be some outbreaks of rain pushing through southern and western Scotland. During the afternoon, I think something of a clearance moving into the far south, but with some spells of sunshine, that may trigger a few heavy, thundery downpours. The focus of the rain tomorrow afternoon around western coasts and islands. Quite a brisk wind in the southwest for a time, but tending to ease during the day. A south or southeasterly wind tomorrow, so the likes of the North Highlands, the Moray Coast, Aberdeenshire faring particularly well with some brightness, highs of around 18 Celsius. And into tomorrow evening, a further few showers, thundery in nature across southern and central Scotland, and then some showery outbreaks of rain pushing eastwards as we go through Saturday night into Sunday. For Sunday itself, we still have low pressure anchored to the northwest and this cold front which is going to make inroads during the course of the day. But we will start with relatively dry conditions, the last of the overnight rain clearing from the Northern Isles, and then that showery rain showing its hand into the west and spreading eastwards. Some really quite intense thundery downpours at times, then some sunshine moving into western coasts and a few showers. A southwesterly wind developing, highs again in the northeast of 18 Celsius. Into the beginning of next week, low pressure still anchored to the northwest, quite changeable conditions. We start with a lot of dry weather, some sunshine, and then the showers get going, particularly across western areas. And overall, temperatures will be down a shade compared with the weekend. That southwesterly wind prevailing. Further into next week generally, and it's all about low pressure really, further areas of low pressure moving in from the Atlantic at times. So unsettled, showers and spells of rain and below par temperature-wise. That's the forecast, Laura.
So get an inside project is what you're saying. Christine, yes. Thank you. Now tonight's main news again. 3 teenagers are convicted of murdering 16-year-old Caden Moy on an Ayrshire beach last year. CCTV shows them congratulating each other as they flee the scene. And residents evacuated from their homes due to unexplained ground movement call for more support as they met the First Minister. I'll be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone on the team, have a great weekend when it comes. Bye-bye.